darker than usual.
Yeah. Cloud coverage.
Good morning. And then you say good morning. That's how this works, right?
Well, today's topic, I don't know. I'm going to play the role of the person who's not so happy.
Are you Mr. Grumpy?
I'm going to be Mr. Grumpy's. So I've got.
Does that make me Mr. Happy?
That makes you Mr. Happy.
It's my favorite role to play.
Yeah, so
we kind of are playing roles all the time. Sorry to interrupt you, but we're kind of playing roles all the time, whether we realize it or not. We could unconsciously, we're like, this is what I'm about to do. This is my disposition. This is my Shen today.
Yeah. And a lot of it's misdirected, and a lot of it's going to, create the conditions of really everything you feel, think, and how you act for an entire 24-hour cycle. It's one of those fun things that being health coaches and working with individuals, it's all about mindset and goal set.
Yeah.
The idea is if you're working towards something that you're really, pushing yourself to limits. And you've got something in mind that keeps you going that's actually worth it for you to keep that type of energy.
A larger view.
Yeah, so if I woke up today and today's just not working out for me, I've got so much to do and I don't want to do any of it. And, the idea is you run into your entire day platform with the attitude of why try or, just very self-defeated versus I think even though I woke up this morning at about 5 something and got some extra work done, I kind of was like, wow, I'm just so excited to get into the setup here to try and talk about something that I think is so critical when it comes to health and wellness is just keeping you happy.
Being happy.
So
the semantics are huge, kind of really play into this concept. You said keeping happy, is that what you said? And it's kind of interesting. It's like the more you try to be happy, it's like, or trying to force something instead of allowing it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard the analogy like a cat chasing his tail. Mm-hmm. Like I think that's a Buddhist analogy, is trying to be happy,
right.
is a cat like trying to chase his tail. You're just going in circles.
Right.
So and I've also heard like Michael Bernard Beckwith says, it's not about getting what you want as much as how can I bring value into the world. How can I be of service to the people that are coming into my lives, to paraphrase him.
Right.
And in doing so, you may find this value, this underlying warm juice of life, also known as happiness.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're right. I think
it's allowing it to happen.
A lot of people feel it's a byproduct of something. Oh, I did this. I accomplished that. I found something. I added something that actually was external, and now I'm happy.
Right.
Versus, I think what we love to focus on is much more the idea of I just am happy. There's no needing to do anything about it. In fact, the happiest moments for most of us are sitting in a very comfortable setting, just looking around and noticing that the world's beautiful and amazing if you have the proper framework to kind of allow that to keep you happy.
Right.
It's an interesting state because it's more of the additions of things that actually take happy away. And that's that idea that you're constantly running around, you're chasing, you're always needing to be on the move, you have to have a busy schedule. And I know that this is one of those where it's hard in this style of world system, this world view, in our surroundings to be reinforced. And don't get us wrong, there's a lot of body issues and healing and things of that nature that can compromise a system for being able to maintain happy. But I think what we're going to go into a lot today is just the strong sort of nature, the power of realizing that it just sometimes takes a few moments of stopping your process, stopping your schedule, stopping whatever it is that's preventing and blocking and
Yeah.
sort of it's like being in a room with tinted windows and you don't think there's anything outside. And the idea is if that room's a mess, that's how you kind of feel. So you need to spend that moment to clear up everything to get back to that perfect center. And that's why I think mantras are so important. And if you just sit with yourself for a few minutes sometimes and check in, the mantra that you're expressing will actually be the main condition there that you can actually start to say, wow, that's where I need to do the most work. I really don't need to be out finding happy. I need to find ways of just allowing this mentality to exist inside the brain. Um, and again, happiness is kind of the collective, sort of response of all parts of you working together.
Mm-hmm.
It's when there is confusion or disruptions, the idea is it's more difficult to hold on to it. Maybe you can think a good thought, or you can work towards spending the time. That again, I love to go back to it with a really good Dalai Lama Buddhist phrase. If don't have time for or 15 minutes for meditation, take an hour. The idea is a lot of times the thing we don't want to do or the thing we feel like is not as important as the thing that's going to make us the happiness. And that's where it's tough sometimes to break out of our day-to-day schedule and our reality and getting into knowing that we're actually um, discovering that it is an internal game. And there's a lot out there that steals the happy away. And it can never be taken from you. It's just moved out of the frame of focus, and you just don't see it as clearly. So you start focusing on other things, and you get into stress and worry and anxiety and guilt and things that places where it just takes away that easy joy. And that's where I think what's funny with myself is, the greatest practice that I've had for such a long time is as soon as my eyes are awake or open and I can pop up and see, I go, wow, it's just another beautiful day. Whatever happens, there's really um, no differences, no changes that I need to experience other than today's going to be interesting. There's going to be something fun to do. There's going to be challenges. It's going to be, it can be quote unquote hard, but it's very rare that we get stuck in one mode, and that's what keeps, I think, the nice movement forward with the direction that we're trying to find. So I mean, I want to break this down. I don't want to just talk about happy in general and think that for some reason it's going to affect anybody. But what I really want for us to go into is, some of the ritual practices, some of
Mm.
the behaviors, some of the good vitamin material that's out there that helps support this
Totally.
process. And again, this this time we spend working with people even just through this show and doing this podcast, um, it needs to be practical. It needs to go in and be an actual like lesson system that really helps people say, okay, wow, I picked up something from that hour, and that's made a huge difference on the way I'm doing everything for the rest of my day today at least, and how I can continue that whole process from that point forward.
Hmm. Yeah. So as we're breaking this down, it seems like kind of maybe we define what happiness is. I know it's some kind of impossible because it's different for everybody, but kind of generally, what are we talking about? And I'm thinking of two things. It's feeling good, typically. I'm like, as long as I feel good, I feel like everything's all good, you know? Kind of selfish, but it works for me, So feeling good, and then also like being satiated
Hmm.
on different levels,
Yeah.
spiritually, mentally, physically, our relationships, all these things with food. So that to me is like what comes up when I think of what, being happy is, because I typically, feel when I'm happy, I typically relate that with feeling good or
Yeah.
being satiated. Also, we kind of are just these chemical flesh bags, bacteria and cells and stuff and microbes. So our brain is either creating these feel good chemicals
Mm-hmm.
or these stress or not feel good chemicals, right?
Right.
So I think some of the things we're going to break down will are supporting those chemicals that make us feel good, habits that make us feel good, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
And that's where I think we'll, definitely pull a strong new level of understanding. Contentment is the easiest state to stay in.
That's the word I'm looking for.
Contentment
Yeah.
is the ever pervasive state. You can enter contentment at any point in time, whatever the situation might be. However, and when you quantify, as soon as you quantify and say something is good or bad, then that puts you into a platform of a framework of understanding. If it's bad, then it's the why me. It turns into a spiral in one direction. If it's good, you say, oh, that's great. When it's gone, then you're back to that. So you're right; those things are ebbs and flows, wave patterns that essentially happen. Happiness, it occurs when you start to see or recognize that there is something in front of you or around you or within you that feels great. So when you say feels good, even then, I like the fact that that's just temporal.
Mm-hmm.
But contentment, like I say, waking up and having I am here. I'm this. I'm today.
Yeah. I
Um,
like that you remind me of this idea of kind of that Zen way of looking at life. It is what it is. And when I add on these adjectives of good or bad,
mhm.
effective, not effective, in the flow, out of the flow, whatever it is, in the zone, out of the zone, that when it's so we're kind of like the psychology of being happy here
Right.
is what are you doing in your head that's working against you
Or
psychologically
yeah.
by labeling
Mm-hmm.
what's happening in the external reality and having a reaction to that stimuli.
Correct.
So that's part of that game you're talking about, that practice.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a good place for us to kind of start. Is how and it's kind of simple, but it's worth talking about. I think is how do I make a practice of letting the world be just what it is, stop putting labels on it, and be aware of how I'm reacting. So it's awareness is what we're talking about.
Correct.
So that's a tool,
That's
awareness.
a very big tool.
That's really the foundation right here, and that's the game you can constantly practice with yourself. Is checking in, aware of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and how are you projecting or labeling uh, uh, the world around you instead of just being like this is what it is and not saying this is good, this is bad.
Right. So the statement that I like using on that one is I'm 5'5". So when you say that I'm 5'5", now that's a measurement. There's technically a fact to that. It's something that you can find out. Now, here's where it's interesting. A person could then begin the process of going, that's short. Okay, yeah, and I don't like being short. I feel like I'm small. I feel like my, father, mother, brother, whatever it was, bigger. I feel like the guy that sits there and he's got more stuff, or he's created a better life. So, and he looks so happy, and he's 5'6", and that must make such a difference because there's so many things blown into it. But that same exact scenario, you really do look at it, and you could say at any point in time, I'm 5'5" is all you have to really go back to and be perfectly happy, content with the fact of
you get to be a point guard.
5'5" point guard. I don't know, maybe we'll see. But the idea is if that judgment scale is actually something where you can then turn it around and again look at the fact that you're not 4'5". There's some other issues there.
Right. It could always be worse.
And there's a huge blessing in the fact of just going through this process. But it's also one of those where you're never limited by that physical attribute. I mean, there's nothing that actually stops any person who's 5'5" from doing anything. But if you tell yourself that that is a strong factor in you being able to be happy, then that's a huge mindset or huge change. And that's where I think it's interesting is if we just go through and list all the things about ourselves as one of the beginning, you'll start to see the mantras. You'll start to see how you kind of judge you, and it's all a you driven thing. That's where, like we were kind of just saying, the strong basis for getting into a better place is knowing that those basic facts are not limiting, and they're perfectly good for helping you get into and out of better situations.
Totally.
So
So it seems like um, we're talking about developing a relationship with yourself,
correct.
getting to know that whole like who are you, right? There's no answer to that. Who am I? It's literally an ongoing observation of what you're feeling, thinking, and doing, and having an awareness of that. And through that observation, a relationship develops.
Yeah.
A little like clarity develops. And when you have an awareness of what's going on, you tend to make better choices.
Right.
You tend to breathe deeper. It literally takes a moment of stopping and becoming aware, as opposed to just being an autopilot, to stop and breathe deeper. And then you make a practice of that, and that becomes the new norm. That becomes the habit. So, whatever it is, whatever psychological techniques, journaling, you were mentioning making a list, I was mentioning a practice of awareness, observation, whatever it is, it seems like developing or cultivating a life that's healthy, aka filled with happiness, there needs to be a relationship with self developed and nurtured.
Correct.
Step one,
Step one.
know who you are.
Know who you
Observe
are.
it. There's so many different techniques you could use, but one way or the other, you're developing and cultivating a healthy relationship with yourself, just like with a friend or a loved one, family members. You need to listen to them. You need to respond to them. You need to be honest. And the number one person to do that with is yourself. So that to me seems step one. Uh, the other things that come to mind too are like the simplest things, like sleep. Making sleep a priority in your life.
Yeah.
Getting 8 hours of sleep in a blacked out room. I mean, if you love if you love your family, one of the best ways to be a good family member to them is taking care of yourself. And I feel like sleep is so neglected, and it's so simple. Just make it a priority. Record your shows on DVR and watch them the next day. But go to bed and get your 8 hours of sleep. And also, like, getting in sync with the natural circadian rhythms of the planet and the moon and the stars and the suns. So that means going to bed when the sun's starting to go down, and or at least definitely turning off the lights around the house so that your chemicals, your hormones, all these things can start being produced.
Yeah.
So sleep, that's my next one I recommend.
Yeah. Well, it's just, and again, it's kind of putting aside everything that's more than likely driving up the complaints and concerns and worries and issues that steal happiness, that actually take that away from you, instead of giving yourself the time. I don't know how many people who I work with on a routine basis talk about that once they start getting into better practices, they start dreaming again. They actually start to get better function in their system, and that's really a testament to the fact that the body is actually correcting its processes and really helping itself know that it's in a good place. That's the body's way of dealing with stress. When you don't deal with stress, you probably don't dream. So that one day just rolls right into the next, and therefore you didn't get any chances to solve problems. You really are working on your day-to-day, awake tasks while you're sleeping, making sure that your body's coming into it with full creativity when it has the chance to not be focused on anything new input and just sorting through all of the old
Mhm.
stimuluses.
And and become an expert on how to get good sleep. Go online and look it up,
Mm-hmm.
and try to find natural ways to sleep better. Don't try not to go to drugs or pharmaceuticals because you're going
Yes.
to create more problems in the long run,
Correct.
and you're not solving the underlying problem of why you tend not to sleep.
Yeah.
Cut out stimulants. Um, and the next part that leads me to, I think, is nutrition for
Nutrition.
happiness.
Yeah. Yeah, so the biggest pieces in this, I mean, it's exceptionally difficult with the Vitamin D Council taking a look and understanding how vitamin D itself was so critical in terms of supporting overall happiness for individuals, and it really, I believe, is a strong testament to the fact that the during the day sunshine, the way we're supposed to naturally get vitamin D really is the best platform to begin with. If you have low vitamin D, now that's anything below 65 nanograms per milliliter, then your body is going to not be able to maintain and keep the overall happy working for you. So we really want to stress foundation nutrition and get that back into the body. Besides the actual vitamin D levels and counts, I mean, I go back to something as simple as just dehydration as part of a nutritional factor because that's something that definitely makes a body stressed and
Absolutely.
not able to do its normal processes. And then we could get into things like digestion and finally into, of course, the overall hormone balance. It's so unique because a lot of us will maybe even do certain compounds in order to say, oh, well, that's a happy chemical, whether it's 5-HTP or something along those lines. But your body naturally produces these things, and you need to get a system back in operation to where it can start working for you.
Speaking of
So,
water, this is the best water I've ever had. Snow, glacier melt water.
glacier plants, yeah.
I'm no, it's like next level. Now that I've started drinking this, it's hard to enjoy other waters. Even the spring water, it's like, yeah, but it's not the glacier melt that I've come to enjoy and
just
love.
just don't make that the happies. You know, yeah, you got to get your happy everywhere.
It's so true, but man,
But
this water's
so the fun
good. By the way,
part,
if Snow ever wants to sponsor me, feel free to send me like
sponsor
100 cases.
100 cases. So as we go through the understanding inside the brain, there's a really good platform here that we want the body to be balanced. We want everything, and that's one of the easiest places, like I say, to just go back to a core center. We want really nothing to be too high, too strong, too depleted, too low. We want everything to be in that balanced
Homeostasis,
form and
yeah.
a good homeostasis. And the way to do that is to set up these patterns.
Yeah.
Sleeping on a routine basis, going to sleep just after sundown, allowing for your body to clear out the time that it needs to, making sure that when you wake up, you have a clear goal in mind for what you need to start working on is the easiest way to not get caught up into a scenario. Working, though, I would say with a lot of people, we suffer from a tremendous amount of protein deficiency, even though we have a lot of quote unquote protein in the supermarket. It's the quality of what's being put out there that the body can't really absorb as effectively. I use literally every form and every source of protein I could possibly get, from sprouted seeds all the way up to obviously like buffalo and venison, really good wild meats. But it's unique because this process of getting those proteins are what set up your body's ability to break down the amino acids that are essential for supporting you through the process of developing all of your good hormones. And this is where a lot of times we see the sugar-free, fat-free craziness sort of that's out there. These things contribute to a lot of these deficiencies as well. And so it is one of those where your body needs all of those good essential oils, a good fatty,
Balanced macros.
yes,
Yeah.
all of the good balanced macro,
And it's
and
different for everybody.
and it is different. But the idea is for your body to start working on a platform and a plan to discover what the next bases are for you. Try living the way you're living for a week in full observation, writing everything down, and then the next week change one or two items in order to see how does it affect your overall mood system. And sometimes it's as simple as people switching over from breakfast cereal to like actually having just a fresh granola. or something along those lines. Same scenario, but you changed one item, and all of a sudden you're waking up a little happier, or cutting grains completely in the morning and going to something that's much more protein rich.
So
Um,
something popped in my head. So let's say I'm depressed, okay? I'm not happy. I know. Please. Now something else just popped in my head too. Is are we stuck in victim mode?
Correct.
Right? Why are we stuck in victim mode? Because it's opportunistic.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting something out of being sick. We're getting something out of being depressed. We don't have to fulfill our life's purpose. We don't, whatever it is, people feel bad for us, so they support us and give us. I can't go to work. I can't, do these things because I'm depressed and sad. I'm stuck in victim mode.
Right.
Be conscious and careful of that, right? I forgot my original point, but that just popped in my head, and I think that's important to think about. Oh, I remember. So don't be stuck as a victim. Take full responsibility for your life and everything that's going on for it, because when you take responsibility, then you're the one who can change it.
Correct.
If it's this outside circumstance that I have no control over and my life sucks and nothing's working for me and everything's against me, then you're screwed. There's nothing you can do, right? But when you're like, you know what? I am the creator, I am the manifestor of my life. Everything that's happening I'm responsible for, then you can change it. Then you can take ownership of it. So back to what I was saying originally. If I'm the depressed guy, I'm sad, I can't, I'm not making things work. What's cool is you can find hope. That's where this kind of starts, is hope. When you can start cultivating a little bit of hope, that's where that's when you start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, right? And where does the hope come from? It comes from knowing that, okay, if I just start implementing a few things, I'm going to start getting 8 hours of sleep. I'm going to research what is the best nutrition for me. I'm going to start eating a kind of a whole food, whatever it is, I'm going to start getting better high grade nutrition. I'm going to stop eating junk and processed foods, and I'm going to start drinking more water and eating more vegetables and good source of superfoods like spirulina or whatever protein source it is. That's where the hope comes in. I'm going to start going to social events that are surrounded by positivity. I'm going to start a mantra. I'm going to start affirmations. These little technologies, although we're not there yet, in other words, although we're not healthy and our neurotransmitters aren't where we'd like them to be and our mineral levels aren't there, by doing these things, exercising, that eventually happiness and feeling good will come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's kind of where it just popped in my head there. It's like, oh, what is it? Because I know what it's like to feel depressed. I know what it's like to feel helpless and be kind of. I've hit rock bottom before in my life, and I mean that's how I got into all this stuff. It's like I want to feel better. I want to have a reason for being alive, and I want to have a purpose on this planet, and I want to make the world a better place.
Right.
You start playing with those things, you're going to find your way to happiness. But know that you can find some hope. Write down. You were saying, this is what reminded me, is before I think we started recording, you said something like not being focused on the symptoms, but being focused on the goals.
On the goals, yes.
That's where the hope comes
the
in.
fastest way to get out of a scenario.
It sucks right now, but I know if I start doing these things, if I stop hanging around these crappy people, I start hanging around these positive people, I stop eating this bad food, I start eating this good food, I start getting hydrated, I start exercising, I start getting sleep. That's hope.
That's hope. And that's where I think it's so critical on the health coaching platform, because you yourself might not actually be waking up and thinking that that's how you feel. But when you align yourself to somebody else, hi, I'm Joe, I'm going to help you through your depression.
Thank you.
The idea is all of a sudden now you've got somebody to go, well, what about this? What about this? Well, what about this? And all these things that are floating around in the actual psyche system, they're the part that are keeping that stealing away from that contentment and that happiness from being able to be had. And all of a sudden you start to see from an outside perspective somebody looking at you and giving you this great feedback on this is how we can actually see your system start to get into a better place. When I hear somebody say, and I tell you, this happens more time than I could possibly imagine. I have people who wake up, they have a cup of coffee, they don't feel like eating breakfast, their digestion's all screwed up. They go to work. They have another cup of coffee on the way to work. They are not quite feeling good in their head. They're a little drained on their energy by
Probably
around
gonna.
lunchtime.
Yeah.
So they're still kind of like feeling a little low. They have another cup of
And they're
coffee.
cranked up too, right?
Now the funny thing is
Cortisol's going super high.
their system is still kind of ready for a little bit of food. They grab a quick bite at some sort of next to the coffee shop fast food place.
A
um, th-
croissant.
then they go croissant would probably be better. Then they go and they move onto their overall end of the day. Their stress levels go high, completely cranked to the roof. They come home, try to relax. Their body's not ready to do anything other than be on the actual caffeinated level. The protein content, the water system that they've been supporting, it all breaks it apart. Then they wonder why I can't go to sleep. They are literally, but that's their pattern. They don't see anything wrong with it because that's the way things have gotten for them. And the process is definitely one where we see that as a health coach, we step up and we go, well, wait a minute. How about tomorrow we don't do the first 2 cups of coffee? If you feel tired towards the middle of the day,
Have a
okay,
small.
sure, have
Yeah.
something small and enjoy that.
Mhm.
But the idea is let's figure out a different way. Let's get you some MSM. Let's get you some good minerals back in the body.
Yeah.
Let's
Vitamin
start
C.
working with vitamin C,
B vitamins.
B
Blah
vitamins.
blah blah.
Let's get this platform working. Yes, exactly. To where all of a sudden the body says, well, wait a minute. I know how to do this on my own. I don't need something else coming in and working, for me outside of my own system. I just need to put the right material in, and then the whole body actually takes care of itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a huge step up in the right direction for a lot of people, because that's the platform that we would love to support, is doing all of this work for you without having all of these points where you feel unsupported or breaking down.
Hmm.
Again, it's unique because we hear people who kind of run that victim mentality, because it is easy to get into.
So convenient.
And I know that even for myself, it happens. It happens on sometimes a day-to-day basis,
Oh
to
yeah, me
where
too.
then all of a sudden you like
That's part of that relationship, though.
it's
That's
a
the awareness.
relationship.
You got to catch yourself
Yep.
doing it,
And then you write
or
something
have people like
down.
my girlfriend remind me when I'm like being in victim mode.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you write it down. The idea is, this is what's bothering me. This is what I need to fix. And you come up with a plan. And that plan should start to help overall carry you into a better place.
Yeah.
But I know that we kind of go through this whole operation of discovering, what it is and what it takes to kind of work on your own platform for really doing this work. It's a very critical, and it's all about the willingness to change, the ability to move
Yeah.
into new platforms, new paradigms, and accepting that that's really the first opportunity. And again, it goes back to, I think, what you were sort of mentioning earlier. When you get into a scenario where you feel like you have no choices, no options, left. You're in that depressive state, and it's been so pervasive for such a long time. You finally want to break it apart and say, okay, it takes sometimes going on a retreat or a vacation.
Yeah.
And again, that's sometimes, I think, the strongest first step is to just get out of these day-to-day patterns
Yeah.
and see who you are in another locality when you don't have all of those stresses. And I know even that, to some people who are stuck in their mode, that's such a stress creating condition. But it's once you get there that you're having that goal set. You're saying, I'm really focused on the chance for me to be able to not feel this way. Now I have to set myself into a place where that's possible. And if you see it happen and it's outside of yourself, retreat setting, time off from work, a vacation of some sort, then the idea is, this is where you can kind of gravitate towards knowing that you're in a better place, because now you're here. Well, how do I make where I feel there similar to what I am
At home.
experiencing here?
Yeah.
And you learn to kind of port those behavior practices and patterns. And that's why I think doing the retreat material is so critical sometimes for people to be able to come in and change their environment up and see what they'd like to do for themselves differently, and then know that there is a huge breakthrough about to happen as soon as you can actually get into that different mode of thinking.
Yeah.
Um,
Change your paradigm.
Change your paradigm.
It almost forces you to get out of yourself, and it's like uncomfortable at first. It reminds me of fasting.
Mm-hmm.
Your body, whether you're healthy or not healthy, is constantly trying to adjust to keep you alive and to keep you going, right? To keep you producing more generations of DNA, right? So your body's going to do whatever it can to create that type of weird homeostasis, even if it's not healthy.
Right.
So when you go on a retreat or you fast or change your diet, your body tends to freak out. Your mental and physical body kind of tend to resist.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot when you go on like a spiritual retreat or a medicine retreat, whatever it is, there's a lot of talking about non-resistance and letting go. And what happens is you're resisting until you can't resist anymore, and you kind of hit that breaking point, and you
Right.
let go, and you fall back into serenity. You fall back into
Yourself.
God's love, into yourself.
Yeah.
And it sometimes takes that little uncomfortable push or that experience to break and then be like, oh, it's all good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Oh, I'm totally loved and supported by the universe.
Yeah.
Oh, everything's working for me, not against me. Oh, wow, there's beautiful people and things going on in the world. Wow, things really are getting better, even though they're getting worse. Things are really getting better too. That's amazing. Oh, so whatever it is, going on retreats can totally radically change your paradigm. Um, should we talk a little bit about nutrition or herbs or things like that? We've been talking a lot about other technologies.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, I think it's unique because when we see, the directly related to, happiness chemicals, we always love to use compounds like mucuna, which is a fantastic dopamine material that actually allows for the body to have the precursor L-DOPA. And for allowing that dopamine to be present in the system. This is definitely one of those, missing components. Serotonin is something that with high quality vitamin C and really good protein synthesis from the tryptophan family, then you can actually start to boost that overall serotonin. There is something to the fact of actually being, eating the turkey and actually enjoying the tryptophan overload and feeling that kind of that self-induced happiness. And again, all you do is get comfortable and usually you fall asleep, which is the fantastic way of going about the whole process. It's definitely one where we know that toxicity can take away the function of the body. And so, doing an actual detox program that works well for your body.
We should talk about the liver, as I would imagine,
the liver,
too.
Yeah, is so critical in that operation. And again, a lot of people feel
the anger, the toxic liver anger connection.
A lot of people feel so depleted because they have very little jing in their body, very little energy coming back. And they've lost their connection to source that actually allows for them to get this God relationship back into their heart center, to realize, hey, I've got enough energy to go as long as I need to go. There's nothing that can stop me as long as I have everything working for me. Even though this moment may not feel right, or there might not be a good place or good scenario inside for myself, the idea is let's find a better way of working with our overall platform. And I think that's where, as we go through the other sort of nootropics even, and getting the actual direct chemicals into the body to where we can see changes occur inside the platform that our brain's working on. Again, neuron development is so amazing. Things like choline are hypercritical towards possessing good happiness and allowing it to be a part of our state. And I always love that working with individuals in a coaching setting. It's the fact that when you start somewhere, you track it to a point to where you get to another platform. And even though what's funny is at that space with the wrong mindset, you might still feel like
I'm
everything's
plateauing.
not working right for you. But the change in elevation difference between where you were when you started
Enjoy the
and
view
where
at
you're
that
going,
plateau.
that plateau is amazing because that shows that you've transferred into a much better scenario.
Some of my favorites are obviously
Hmm.
reishi mushroom, however you want to say it. Go online and research about that. I think that's a great place for anyone to start. It's really safe, really effective, and it's working on multiple levels. You are cleaning and rebuilding the liver,
Yep.
which is essential
Yep.
for feeling good, and you're building and stimulating your jing, your qi, and your shen. You can research that online too, and it really, in my experience, has helped me feel good. I mean, you take it for a week and you notice a little bit like things are a little bit more saturated. Life is a little bit brighter.
Yeah.
Things don't seem to be bothering you as much. So reishi is one of my favorite. I love Makuna as well.
Hmm.
Makuna is one that you definitely kind of feel that giddiness after a while if it builds up in your system for a while. And spirulina is one of my favorites too, as well. All those amino acids you were talking about, supporting all that hormone function.
Yeah.
Um, TMG,
Beautiful.
trimethylglycine,
Yeah.
for cleaning out the liver, and it also has SAMe in it, which is a precursor to serotonin. And I
Serotonin.
found that to be really effective. It's about that 5 day mark for all these things. I feel like for me,
Mm.
after about 5 days of taking them, I really start to feel them. Some people like ashwagandha. I haven't worked a
Yeah.
lot with that one. I haven't been really drawn to it that much, but I know I get it all the time from blends and stuff that I eat. But those are some of the particular ones that come to mind. Obviously, exercising. You've heard it's like doing cardio, interval cardio for 30 days is more effective, or whatever it is, 60 days or 30
Right.
days or 3 months is more effective than any over-the-counter or prescribed
Right.
antidepressant.
Yep.
Um, so that speaks pretty highly about what we need to do.
Yeah.
Get the body moving, get it naturally stimulating these circulation and these chemicals. Working with free weights and doing some resistance training. That's one of the best ways to stimulate things like testosterone and these other feel good anabolic hormones.
Yeah.
Any others? Vitamin C, like you were saying, camu berry, and all those things. Amazing for getting. I love the MSM camu or botanical vitamin C combo.
Mm.
I mean, you get a flush of serotonin within.
A few minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, and you're lowering inflammation. That's another huge part. Is stop eating foods like you were saying. An elimination diet really important. Stop eating foods that are causing inflammation, and eat foods that cause anti-inflammatory responses.
Right.
Because I mean, I like if I get low energy in the middle of the day, or if I'm starting to feel cranky, I'll do a shot of MSM with the botanical vitamin C, and it brings me back.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that could just be inflammation from what you're experiencing throughout the day, all the EMF and the toxins and blah, blah, blah. Getting grounded, again, going back to the simple things. Oh my God, omega 3s.
Yeah.
Huge for helping with depression.
Correct. Correct. And that's where, and they're working, inside the brain system, neuron development. They're allowing for, lubrication of joints and muscle tissue, and really working as the basis and the foundation for your actual overall cholesterol support system as well too. We see a lot of people who have bought onto the idea that we need to be low cholesterol in order to be healthy. Yet the funny thing is, this doesn't allow for the support of the hormone creation system. So a lot of the hormones actually start to become very depleted, and the body becomes more inflamed.
How come our production of cholesterol is not enough? Because our bodies make cholesterol, right?
It does, but
But there seems to be an added bonus of taking in.
extra. Well, it's the idea that the body doesn't have to work as hard at tearing apart cells and getting cholesterol from the breakdown of cells, more so when it comes in through a dietary mean.
Mm,
So there's much more rapid release of omega, and the ability for it to be in the blood system and available for use at the moment's necessity
yeah.
versus breaking it out of an actual cell and trying to find places where it's okay to break cells down at a rapid rate in order to release cholesterol. Um, again, that's where it's kind of interesting that the platform that we have out there a lot of times is people start failing in their health. And what we do is we take some sort of compound that actually makes other areas of our health start to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of the idea of, wow, I could just go back to getting these basic, basic materials back in the body, and this would give me the ability to feel like I can go into my day to day and actually enjoy the platform of the I am great. I am, and again, this is one of those where you'll start to catch on after watching this particular episode here. It's the I ams that you say to yourself on a routine basis that I would say is your daily mantra. And if you could think of 4 or 5 things just that, tomorrow that you said to yourself today that I am something, and then realize was that positive or was that actually something that's detracting, then you can switch that around and say the opposite and actually start to feel the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you might be tired, but the idea is I'm awake and I can keep going. Tired is a state. It's a position to be in. And we really want people to be able to work at walking through their issues and their steps instead of being stuck.
I'm telling you, you get those 8 hours of sleep every night, you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
I just recently made a priority, maybe a month ago. Like, I gotta have 8 hours of sleep no matter what. Like, that's gonna be number one, a huge priority in my life. And you don't get tired during the day.
Yeah.
I'm way less grumpy, way less fatigued. I've also cut out a lot of foods that were causing some allergic, inflammatory reactions. All these things we're describing are working towards building momentum.
Correct.
And you get that a little bit of momentum
A little
going,
bit.
and that starts becoming your new high, your new fix. You know, it's like it starts to taste so good to be healthy and build that momentum that you no longer are attracted to the things that were kind of masking the negativity in be it alcohol
Right.
or
Right.
negative thoughts or being stuck in victim mode or toxic relationships or environments. Those things that used to be so we used to be so quick to run to, you're not even interested in them because you're starting to build momentum and it's starting to feel so good to be healthy.
Right.
Exercising and eating right is the best drug ever. No, hands down. And it's the next level. And we all need to get on this system, because then the real fun can happen. Now we can really start making a beautiful planet full of culture and art and music and stories of triumph, of overcoming challenges and defeats, and rising to the occasion, and the great human story and the struggle and the hero's journey, and all these things that are at the center of what's trying to unravel out of this human experience, the universe expressing itself as human beings. Then we can really start to have fun. But that's why we're doing this. That's why health is such a big industry, and there's all these different opinions and diets. Is something is trying to distill something pure and wonderful out of this human race. And so this is the next part we all got to get on, is let's learn how to be super functional, optimal human beings,
Mm-hmm.
expressing love and creativity and awesomeness, for lack of a better word, but expressing that thing that's trying to come through. We don't need to be warring with ourselves internally and warring with other countries and all these conflicts that come out of not enoughness.
Yeah.
The universe is here to support us. So the more of us that start shining our light, the more of us that start getting healthy, the more we're going to start seeing the world becoming a better place.
Yeah.
I'm going off on a tangent, but that's really what this is, the bigger picture. It's not just about you and your happiness. It's about being in harmony with this organism called planet Earth, and this organism called the solar system, and this organism called our galaxy, the Milky Way, which is such a fun word.
Yeah. But I love where you're going with that, and I think it's definitely something where for a lot of people the struggle is that first step. It's always
The planet needs you.
Oh yeah,
The
of course.
planet is recruiting you right now to be your best self ever.
Exactly.
And guess what? It's a gift and it's an opportunity.
Yep.
And it's the whole reason you're here.
And you get
is
that,
to say
and
yes.
you get a choice. Yeah, you get a choice. The idea is to just always say yes, and that way you can actually start to see what that means and where that goes from this point. Um, and it's critical. We talked a lot today about individual little bits and pieces of how to begin. Any one of these steps is something that can be the best first step. It's that's all, and again, it's just a piece of it. And the idea is to really look at platforming to where you could actually be a part of knowing what's right for you. That's again the struggle. If you have trust and you have self confidence, then you'll know that whatever the step is, that's the right step. I think that's maybe one of the few gifts that some people have is they just always trust themselves and they don't look for validation on a routine basis. If you're looking for validation though, and you need somebody to support you in this process, you're working against people who don't share your newfound enthusiasm for becoming healthy and getting into a better platform. That's where it's so critical to send us an email, subscribe down below, give us some comments to where we can start working directly with you and helping this become a part of your platform. We've all struggled, both of us, as much as we sit here today and we talk about how, oh yeah, it's so easy, just have some
do
vitamin
this
D.
and
Oh,
do
it's gonna
that.
be great.
Stop being a victim. Get
Yeah.
over yourself.
This was the place where we came from, and it's because we took that final, like that first step and actually said, from here on out, I'm just not going to do that anymore. I'm going to actually change this whole way that I'm living and get myself into a place that doesn't support that. And now, like you say, it's kind of funny with those T-shirts you always read that say "No bad days," and I kind of look at them like, you're right. There's no reason for that. And before, I had the attitude of, man, every day is such a struggle. And there's a platform here that seeing it today, seeing it now, I'm amazed at the way that it actually works and why it does work. But you've got to be active in it. You've got to find the right steps to help you find that for yourself.
And the struggle never goes away. Or life
No.
is, it's this game that we're talking about. It's not like you're never going to experience conflict or stress or struggles. You just become a bad A person. See, I didn't say ass. Although I just did, but I didn't say it. But you become.
Why can't we get through one episode?
I'm sorry.
Wow. Come on.
But you become stronger, and you learn how to deal with stress and struggles, and it's like, so you get stronger, and that's kind of how that works. I think is not
Correct.
trying to get rid of stress, but learning how to deal with stress, right?
Yeah. Well, imagine that technically speaking, everybody has a dry erase board. Now that's the modern say chalkboard. And if you fill it up with as many things as you're thinking right now, as many issues or tasks or whatever you want to fill it up, you eventually run out of space and you start writing things in really weird, crazy like loops, and it all gets so jumbled up. What we're a lot of times saying is that when it comes to health coaching and working with individuals, the idea is we just wipe the chalkboard and say, okay, where do you want to start?
Mm-hmm.
I want to feel happy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, guess what? I am happy.
Yep.
That's all it takes to feel that. It may not feel perfect at the first moment, but the idea is you're setting yourself up for, if that's the only thing you see is the words, I am happy. Well, you don't have any other thing telling you the opposite, to where you actually have to worry about, am I really happy, or is this, no, this, then you start second guessing. And when the body again finally starts responding in a way that
on
actually
a cellular level
that shows, yeah, actually we are. everything's in here that is working and it's actually doing its best function, then that all of a sudden will start to say, hey, I really do have something different right now. The sad part, I think, a lot of people is they wait for the body to tell everything else that it's going to be happy, and that's a huge loop that needs to be closed, because there's no reason for that to be in the way of things.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many stories that I could probably go through and display that paradigm, helping people get through some serious issues and problems. But they maintain the fact on the inside that, yeah, I am great things and not this, this interesting issue. So I hope that there was some bits and pieces in here that really grabbed or gravitated towards your particular circumstances, and we really do want to just be a support network and a system to kind of allow for people to see that there are great first steps to start making.
Yeah. Quick recap. So we talked about developing a personal relationship with yourself, practicing awareness.
Correct.
You can, by the way, just go online and research all these things. Look at the professionals, get the books, read them, or just watch videos on them. So awareness and a personal relationship with yourself, observing your emotional disposition, and that I am state. So this includes all the psychological things of affirmations, and then also I think getting clear about what you want your life to look like, not letting your happiness rely on whether you have them or not, but get clear, make a list of this is what my optimal life would look like. Yeah. These are my goals that I'm working towards. One of them for me was podcasting and doing these videos. Yeah. I'm like, this is what I think of as my perfect life. Is I love doing these videos. I love sharing and being a part of this whole thing, this social networking experiment that's exploding on the planet right now. It's kind of like having a podcast now is kind of like having a phone number, or a cell phone, or it's kind of weird not to have a podcast. So anyways, write down your goals, develop a personal relationship with yourself, practice awareness, get more sleep, make sleep a priority, hydration and nutrition, making those things a priority, getting specific, cutting out the inflammatory foods, cutting out the foods that are working against you.
Right.
Only put foods that are worthy of your body temple in that mouth.
Yeah.
What were some other ones? Grounding,
supplementing
with some stuff.
Yeah, working on brain nutrients.
Brain nutrients.
So no,
sunlight.
There's a lot.
Grounding.
And each individual person, like I say, is going to need a special blend. So feel free to always drop us a line and let us know. Like I say, comment as much as possible. We'd love to answer those questions. Send us an email. That'll give us a great place to begin the process of knowing what's the next steps. And that way you can get your questions answered. Take away the questions. Start with more directions. That way you can really see yourself doing something different. Mm-hmm. So we hope that you enjoyed. This has definitely been a happy moment. So we really think that you're worth it. I think you're worth it. I hope you can start thinking you're worth it. I know that after you go through a process, it definitely gets you into that right mindset to know that you're actually going into this process and discovering what's the right way to live. And that's change the mode, change the mentality.
Get a worldview, go on a retreat, be in service to others.
Yes.
Let's all make this world a better place, and it begins with you and me.
Yep. So make sure you get crazy.
Stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated. Thank you for joining us today with two crazy health coaches. This was Joseph Montgomery and
mycorrhizal fungi.
Yeah, Michael. We'll talk with you guys later. Check us out next week. Like I say, I look forward to questions and comments. Thank you.
Mwah.